Some breaking news out of Buckingham Palace. The Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, is pregnant.
They thought the secret would stay buried behind the stone walls of Kensington Palace. They were wrong. Something was stirring in the shadows, something powerful, fragile, and explosive. Something the outside world was never meant to discover. Not yet, but whispers slipped through cracks. Phones rang behind locked doors. Advisors met in rooms with curtains drawn. A storm was forming, and the handful of people who knew the truth carried it like a burning coal in their palms. Then, long after the palace had fallen silent, a single sheet of paper was slid into an envelope. Only one page, only a few words. But the moment Prince William opened it, the future of the monarchy shifted. He stared at the message, frozen, while Catherine stood beside him with her hand on his shoulder. They both knew exactly what those words meant. The name they had chosen for their fourth child was more than a name. It was a statement, a rebirth, a rebellion. And when the world finally learned what they dared to name their daughter, half of humanity cheered and the other half erupted in fury, shock, and disbelief. What kind of name could divide nations? What could drive grown adults to fight over a newborn on live television? This is the inside story of the most controversial royal baby name of modern times. IT began with a coat. A simple, flowing blue coat Catherine wore to an event one quiet spring morning. Elegant, yes, but strange. Too loose. Too deliberate. Fashion experts sounded the alarm instantly. Something was off. Had she gained weight? Was it style choice? Or was it something more? Rumors spread quickly, whispered through royal watching forums and gossip sites like sparks along dry grass. Meanwhile, the palace stayed silent, eerily silent, and then William's schedule began to shift. Overnight trips were cancelled, appearances rearranged. He hovered closer to home like a man guarding a treasure he feared losing. Even the protection officers changed. They stood tighter, moved sharper, eyes darting like hawks. Something precious was being hidden. Then came the medical visits. Catherine, sunglasses on and head lowered, slipped into a private medical building 3 times in 1 month. Inside were some of the top specialists in the country. Reporters made calls, but every source refused to speak. Someone had enforced a wall of silence, and in the royal world, silence always means something is coming. Something big. The children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, were suddenly pulled from school for an unannounced family holiday. They were taken to Balmoral, the one place where royal secrets go to hide. Staff were told to expect them, but given no details. When William and Catherine arrived, they demanded absolute privacy. No visitors, no interruptions. What happened next stayed hidden for months. Only later did insiders reveal that inside those stone walls, the couple set their children down for a conversation that would change their world. George understood instantly. His face shifted from confusion to shock to something close to awe. Charlotte burst into joyful tears. Louis, sweet, mischievous Louis, simply asked if this meant he wasn't the baby anymore. His parents laughed and held him close. The children promised to keep the secret, and they did. Not a word escaped their lips. Back in London, preparations began in whispers. Doctors were placed on standby. Meetings were held in coded language. The palace tried desperately to protect the family's privacy. But the internet had already turned into a battlefield of theories, each more dramatic than the last. Every photo of Catherine became evidence. Every movement was dissected. Every outfit was a clue. And still, the palace said nothing. Then came the night that set destiny in motion. In their private sitting room, William and Catherine spread out a notebook filled with baby names. Dozens crossed out, notes scribbled in margins, names tested aloud and rejected. Then Catherine's fingers stopped on one name, the forbidden one they hadn't dared discuss, the one she had circled weeks earlier, the one wrapped in history, tragedy, and fire. William saw it. He froze. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "If we choose that, there will be a storm." Catherine nodded. She knew exactly what she was inviting, but she also knew why it mattered that by dawn they had made their decision. And hell or high water, they would not back down, but royal protocol demanded they inform others first. The meeting with King Charles was tense. William told him the name directly. Silence fell like a curtain. Charles walked to the window, staring out into the gray morning as rain streaked the glass. Minutes crawled by. When he finally turned, his voice was soft. "Tell me why." And William did. He spoke of his mother, her legacy, her love, her courage, the ache she left behind, the values she gave the world. He spoke not as the future king, but as a son. Charles listened, and he understood. He gave his blessing, but the advisors, they did not. They erupted. Furious, panicked, warning of scandal and backlash and comparisons that would follow the child forever. Then Catherine rose. Calm, steady, unbreakable. "With respect," she said, "this is our daughter. We are not asking for permission. We are informing you of our decision." The room went silent. The monarchy had been overruled. And so it began, the storm, the praise, the outrage over the name that would change the royal family forever. They had no choice anymore whether they liked it or not. The advisor's job was no longer to prevent the crisis, but to control the explosion headed straight for them. They drafted statements, built media strategies, rehearsed defenses, and mapped out every possible angle of public outrage. The clock was ticking, the pressure suffocating, and the chosen name, a name that could set the world on fire, loomed over all of it. William and Catherine watched from the sidelines, calm and unwavering. Their decision was made. The rest was the palace's problem, but secrets this radioactive never stay buried. Whispers slipped into the halls of London's elite. Rumors oozed into private dinner parties, hushed conversations, encrypted group chats. Someone somewhere talked. Betting odds for the name Diana suddenly collapsed, as if a ghost had pressed its finger onto the scales. Reporters heard the same rumor from too many sources to ignore. They couldn't publish it, but they prepared. Quietly, eagerly, breathlessly, as the due date crept closer, the air around the Wales family tightened like a wire pulled to snapping point. Security intensified. Hospital protocols activated. Rooms sealed off. Staff vetted to the bone. The stage was set. All they needed now was the arrival of the child who would ignite a global debate before she even took her first breath. That moment came on a quiet, smoky autumn Tuesday, the kind of morning when the world feels like it's holding its breath and the darkness before dawn. The convoy rolled away from Kensington Palace. London slept, unaware that history was on its way to the hospital. Catherine sat in the back seat, contractions rising like waves, her focus drawn inward. William held her hand, rubbing gentle circles on her skin, a silent ritual they had perfected over 3 previous births. They spoke little. There was nothing left to say. The hospital corridors had been cleared hours before. Catherine was ushered into the private maternity wing with the speed and precision of a military operation. Her long-time doctor waited, calm but alert. Machines hummed softly. Monitors flickered to life. Nurses moved like shadows. Efficient, focused, ready. Labor crept forward slowly at first, then surged with brutal intensity. Catherine moved around the room, bracing herself against the wall, gripping the edge of the bed, breathing through waves of pain that threatened to swallow her whole. William stayed close, helpless but unwavering, his heart pounding as he watched the woman he loved fight through each contraction like a warrior queen. Back home, the children waited by the phone. George pacing, Charlotte buzzing with nervous excitement, Louis asking every 10 minutes whether the baby had arrived yet. Change unsettles everyone, but children feel it sharpest. William had promised he would call the moment it happened. They clung to that promise like a rope as afternoon slipped toward twilight. The room thickened with intensity. Catherine's breaths turned ragged, her strength burning at both ends. The doctor leaned forward to its time. What happened next felt like the world holding its breath. Catherine pushed with every ounce of power left inside her. One final surge, one final roar, and then the room erupted. A cry filled the air, a perfect, piercing, beautiful cry. Their daughter had arrived. The moment the baby was placed on Catherine's chest, the exhaustion dissolved into pure, breathtaking awe. William's eyes stung with tears he didn't bother hiding. No matter how many times he experienced this miracle, it never lost its magic. He kissed Catherine's forehead, then touched his daughter's tiny fingers. She curled her hand around his, claiming him instantly. The bond was immediate, eternal. William stepped out to call his father first. "She's here," he said, voice trembling. "She's perfect." Charles's voice cracked with emotion on the other end. They spoke briefly about Catherine, about the baby, about when he could come. Soon, William promised. Then he called home. George answered on the first ring, breathless. "Is she here?" Charlotte squealed when she heard the news. Louis chimed in, demanding to know if she was smaller than him, because that was extremely important apparently. William laughed through tears. Back in the hospital room, Catherine held her newborn with a tenderness that felt different this time. Deeper, heavier, sacred. Maybe it was because she knew this was their last child. Maybe it was because of the name they had chosen. The name that carried a legacy too powerful to ignore. When the monitors dimmed and the hospital settled into nighttime stillness, William and Catherine finally found themselves alone. No doctors, no advisors, no expectations. Just the two of them and the tiny girl who had already changed everything. William looked at his wife. "I'm ready if you're ready," he said softly. Catherine nodded. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "Tomorrow we tell the world." And the world would never forget that day. Morning arrived, buzzing with tension. The palace communication machine was primed. Statements drafted, posts scheduled, spokespersons rehearsed to perfection. They waited at their computers, hovering over keys, ready to unleash the announcement that would break the internet. George, Charlotte, and Louis burst into the hospital room, eager to see their new sister. Catherine carefully placed the baby in Charlotte's arms. Charlotte's face lit up like sunlight breaking through clouds. George smiled like a young man ready to protect his family. Louis leaned in, eyes wide, as if hoping to find magic in the newborn's tiny features. And in a way, there was magic, because this child, this one tiny baby, was about to become the center of a global earthquake. The world had no idea what was coming. George looked at his new sister with curiosity. "What is her name?" he asked. William exchanged a look with Catherine before answering, and Catherine, taking a breath, finally said aloud for the first time, "Your sister's name is Diana." The room fell silent as George's eyes widened. "Like Granny," he whispered. "Just like Granny," William confirmed. George processed the news slowly before saying, "That is a good name. A really good name." Charlotte cried happy tears, touched by the connection to Princess Diana and the memory of her father's late mother, while Lizzie asked if he could call her Di for short, prompting Catherine to laugh and say maybe when she was older. Across London, palace staff simultaneously sent out official announcements across every channel. The Prince and Princess of Wales were delighted to name their daughter Diana Elizabeth Grace, honoring the late Princess of Wales, Queen Elizabeth II, and reflecting the love and beauty that defined their family. The internet exploded within minutes, and reactions split sharply. Some celebrated the tribute to Princess Diana, posting heartfelt memories, photos, and praise, while others criticized the choice as burdensome and exploitative, arguing the child would never have a normal life. The debate touched on deeper tensions about the monarchy, tradition, and modernity, and the conversation continued in media, schools, and social discussions. Meanwhile, William and Catherine brought Diana home to Adelaide Cottage, where George, Charlotte, and Lizzie quickly adapted to their roles as older siblings, while the outside world continued to react, with baby naming trends shifting and King Charles visiting often. gently telling his granddaughter stories of her grandmother. The palace carefully managed public exposure, releasing only a few official portraits showing Catherine and Diana peacefully together. Over time, the controversy faded as the public saw Diana grow as a normal child, attending select royal engagements and embodying her own identity. William and Catherine gave interviews explaining the choice, emphasizing that Diana was not a recreation of her grandmother, but a child of her own, with a name meant to honor the past while inspiring compassion and courage in the present. As the family celebrated her milestones, the name Diana became less a headline and more a symbol of love, legacy, and continuity. The monarchy subtly shifted, reflecting a balance of tradition, openness, and family values. On quiet nights, William and Catherine would watch their daughter sleep, aware of the weight and wonder of her name, believing that despite its challenges, it was a choice rooted in love, a name meant to inspire, connect, and endure, a name that would shape their daughter's life while honoring the legacy it carried.